In this video, we're going to look at subtracting integers. If you're able to add integers and you're able to multiply integers, you should be able to subtract integers. But it can get a little confusing, but we're going to try and keep it easy. Okay? So the first thing we need to look at is what's the relationship between subtraction and addition. So here's my question for you. Let's start with an easy problem. Let's start with 6 minus 2. Okay, and hopefully you can look at this and say, why, Sister Christine, the answer is 4. Okay, I can ask my brother who's in 2nd grade and he can answer this. But let's take a look at the reason why. Now that you know the integers, about integers, answer for me, what is 6 plus a negative 2? Well, if I have 6, and then I say, owe somebody else $2, that leaves me with 4. Okay? Or I can also think of it as 6 green tokens representing positive, plus 2 red tokens representing negative. And if I know that one positive and one negative cancel out, one positive and one negative cancel out, that'll leave me with 4 positives. Okay, well, let's take a look at this. What do I notice about my answers? Well, don't I get the same number? Here and here. This should lead us to conclude or think about the relationship. When I'm dealing with a minus sign here, 6 minus the 2, it's really the same thing as saying 6 plus a negative. So the subtraction sign is really just another negative. It's telling me to take the opposite of a number. 6 plus the opposite of 2, or 6 plus negative 2. So, with this in mind, let's look at another couple examples. Let's say I have negative 6 minus 2. Well, if I use this information, it's like saying 6 plus a negative 2, which I get negative 8. Okay. If I have negative 6 minus a negative 2, well, it's going to be plus the opposite, which in the case of a negative 2 becomes a positive 2. So in a sense, these two negatives, when they're back to back, it's like the opposite of the opposite. They both become a positive. So I'm left with negative 6 plus 2, which will equal negative 4. If I have 4 minus 2, well, once again, it's 4 minus a negative 2, or sorry, 4 plus a negative 2 is the same thing as 4 minus 2, which equals 2. If I have positive 6 minus a negative 2, once again, it's adding the opposite, which 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. So this will take a little bit of do, but the more you can think of subtraction as simply telling me to add the opposite of the number that follows that subtraction sign. So in a sense, that subtraction sign becomes like a negative, where I add then the opposite of the number that follows. So I'm going to have some number. Let's go ahead and write this a little bit more clearly. If I have some number subtracting some other number, I'm going to change this to being adding the opposite of whatever number comes second. So we'll look forward to practicing this a little bit in class, but hopefully this will be a good preview for you. And just as practicing, what I would like you to do is to try to answer the following questions. So try to complete these 4 these 4 problems. I want you to pause the video right now, and then when you turn it back on, I'll have the answers written. So pause the video right now, please. Okay, and here's the answers for you. As you notice in number 1, I add the opposite, so it's negative 3 plus negative 1, which is negative 4. Number 2, the minus the negative becomes 5 plus positive 2 when I add the opposite instead of subtracting, which gives me an answer of 7. Number 3, I change the subtraction to 4 adding the opposite, which 4 plus negative 6 gives me negative 2. And for number 4, when I have negative 2 minus then a negative 3, I have negative 2. I add the opposite, which in this case would be positive 3. So negative 2 plus 3 would equal 1. So we'll practice this a little bit more tomorrow in class, but hopefully it'll give you a preview. Thank you for listening.